The Master of the End of the Han Dynasty. Chapter 1, Crossing the First Awakening. I opened my eyes and found that I was in troubled times at the end of the Han Dynasty, surrounded by beacon fires, and the people were struggling to make a living. Thinking of my goal, to be filial and honest, I immediately understood, I must appear in front of people, in front of my father-in-law, and win the trust of wisdom and prophetic power. I whispered to myself, okay, my son-in-law will let you see what an uncertain prophet is. Chapter 2, First Test of Skills. My father-in-law asked me, dear son-in-law, do you think CAO will flood Zhuzhou? I calmly analyzed the terrain and troops, and put forward countermeasures. If CAO intends to attack by water, he should first build a dam to prevent the situation, so that Zhuzhou can protect itself. The father-in-law nodded in satisfaction, and everyone was amazed. I smiled secretly and said, this is just a small test, the real world is yet to come. Chapter 3, Chen Deng secretly communicated with CAO. One day, my father-in-law asked again, my dear son-in-law, do you have any evidence that Chen Deng is secretly communicating with CAO? I observed subtle clues from his words and actions, and described Chen Deng's recent words, deeds and letters in detail. My father-in-law exclaimed, it is indeed so. Everyone thought I had amazing insight, but they didn't know that I was just combining historical facts with strategic deductions. Chapter 4, Yuan Shu became emperor. At court, Yuan Shu plotted to claim the throne. My father-in-law asked, how did you know this? Using divination and local rumors, I deduced his course of action, analyzing his military strength, financial resources, and the movements of his allies. I then predicted his inevitable destruction. My father-in-law and my colleagues were impressed by my intelligence and secretly dubbed me the son of divine wisdom. Chapter 5, CAO retreated. Soon, CAO lost the Battle of Zhuzhou, and I cleverly used intelligence and military analysis to inform my father-in-law of the defense strategy in advance. CAO's army had to retreat, and his father-in-law and civil and military officials all exclaimed, the virtuous son-in-law is really a brilliant plan. I laughed secretly in my heart, this is just the beginning, the real master duel has not yet arrived. Chapter 6, The Difference between Lu Buletin and Lu Buletin. One day, news came from the army, Lu Buletin's force has increased greatly, and his tactics are extremely flexible. I was puzzled in my heart, secretly observing his actions, and found that someone seemed to be secretly pointing out behind him. Finally, I had a plan and decided to approach Lu Buletin in person to find out his secret. Chapter 7, First Meeting with Lu Buletin. I visited Lu Buletin's camp, humble on the surface and asked for advice, but in fact secretly observed his military strategy and character. Lu Buletin's eyes were sharp, and he suddenly smiled and said, dear son-in-law, do you know the reason for my recent increase in combat power? I was secretly happy in my heart. Sure enough, there was a master point, and this master actually coincided with me. My heart moved, and the time for the showdown came. Chapter 8, Showdown Confession. Lu Buletin waved his hand, no longer hiding it. I said frankly, yes, the good son-in-law is the master behind Lu Buletin. Lu Buletin was surprised, then laughed and patted me on the shoulder. Okay, boy, you are indeed extraordinary. Since then, I have worked closely with Lu Buletin and have become an unbeatable combination on the battlefield. Chapter 9, Fighting Zhang Miao. Lu Buletin and I worked together to devise a trap against Zhang Miao's army. I used intelligence analysis to predict the enemy's movements, while Lu Buletin used force to defeat them head-on. The enemy was routed, and Lu Buletin and I stood shoulder to shoulder on the battlefield, dusty but content. Chapter 10, The First Appearance of a Clever Plan. In the court, my father-in-law and the generals once again inquired about the battle situation, and I proposed a clever plan by combining deduction and historical facts. Everyone was amazed and called me Mouse Hung. I am secretly glad in my heart. Traveling to the end of the Han Dynasty, I can not only enter the officialdom, but also show off my skills in troubled times. Chapter 11, CAO's Doubts. After CAO retreated, he secretly sent someone to test my relationship with Lu Buletin. I responded calmly, humble on the surface, and secretly analyzed their military morale and strategies. CAO saw that my words were clever, and he couldn't help but be secretly surprised, but he was still wary. Chapter 12, Yuan Shu's Conspiracy. Yuan Shu secretly ordered his cronies to secretly communicate with the princes of Jiangdong in an attempt to become emperor. I got the news in advance and used tactics to intensify its internal conflicts and make Yuan Shu confuse himself. In court, my father-in-law praised me again, the good son-in-law is really clever. I laughed secretly in my heart, in troubled times, only the wise can survive. Chapter 13, Lu Buletin's Temptation. Lu Buletin asked me for my opinion on his tactics, and I analyzed their advantages and disadvantages with strategy. He frowned slightly, as if testing whether I understood the mysteries of military strategy. I smiled slightly, put forward hypotheses and deductions. Lu Buletin's eyes flashed with appreciation, and he nodded secretly. Chapter 14, The Mystery of the Tiger Prison. The Imperial Court ordered Zhang Miao and Liu Bei's forces to attack Hulao Pass. Analyzing the terrain and troop strength, I advised Liu Buletin to deploy a defensive formation and set up an ambush. The battle was thrilling, and the enemy suffered repeated setbacks before ultimately retreating. Liu Buletin patted me on the shoulder and said, "Boy, you are truly extraordinary." Chapter 15, Strange Night Visit. Late at night, a mysterious scholar visits, claiming to be a prophet and claiming to know about the troubled future. I saw his true intentions with ghostly eyes and found that he secretly passed on information to CAO. I secretly wrote down the clues and decided to use this prophet as an intelligence source to counter CAO and Yuan Shu. Chapter 16, The Road to Filial Piety. My father-in-law proposed a plan to promote filial piety, and I humbly accepted it on the surface, secretly using the information advantage to grasp the situation. I arranged strategies to confuse the hostile forces while I was seen as a prophetic and clever in the court. The road to entering the official career was smooth, but I knew in my heart that troubled times were like chess, and every step was full of dangers. Chapter 17, Lu Buletin's Counterattack. CAO secretly reinforced, trying to provoke my relationship with Lu Buletin. I predicted in advance, designed countermeasures, and used clever strategies to assist Lu Buletin in repelling the enemy. Lu Buletin trusted me even more deeply, and even began to rely entirely on my deductions and strategies in key battles. Chapter 18, Yuan Shu's Defeat. Yuan Shu's ambitions were exposed, and I preemptively dismantled his plans, demoralizing his army. CAO and Yuan Shu clashed, ultimately leading to his own destruction. I calmly analyzed the situation in front of my father-in-law, and everyone thought I was unpredictable. Chapter 19, Outwitting Chen Deng. Chen Deng attempted to collude with CAO for personal gain, but I used intelligence and strategy to expose his plan. My father-in-law was astounded by his ingenuity and praised me, "You are truly a discerning son-in-law." I chuckled inwardly, the ancient saying, "Warfare is the art of deception," is nothing more than that. Chapter 20, Lu Buletin's Change. I observed Lu Buletin's combat power again and was surprised to find that it had been greatly improved. I secretly wondered, is there a master behind it? Lu Buletin waved his hand, no longer hiding it. I showcased and said, "Yes, the good son-in-law is the master behind Lu Buletin." Lu Buletin laughed and patted me on the shoulder, "Okay, from now on we will live and die together." Chapter 21, Outwitting Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao planned to ally with other vassal states to attack Zhuzhou, and I predicted his route. I proposed a defensive strategy to Liu Buletin, laying ambushes and disinformation to disrupt Yuan Shao's forces. My father-in-law and all the civil and military officials were amazed, "Your son-in-law truly has foresight." Chapter 22, CAO's Provocation. CAO secretly sent someone to provoke Lu Buletin in an attempt to test my relationship with Lu Buletin. I cleverly used intelligence to confuse CAO so that he could not distinguish between truth and falsehood. Although CAO was calm on the surface, he was secretly jealous in his heart. Chapter 23, Zhuzhou Defense Line. I personally commanded the defense of Zhuzhou, analyzing the waterways, terrain, and military strength, and devising a brilliant strategy. CAO's naval attack failed, his troops scattered, and Zhuzhou remained unharmed. My father-in-law and the nobles again praised my wisdom, and my reputation spread. Chapter 24, Strange Night Dreams. One night, I dreamed of strange visions of future war, beacons, blood shadows, and mysterious figures. After waking up, I turned the clues in my dream into a strategy and cleverly predicted the enemy's movements. Lu Buletin was amazed by my intuition and called me the heavenly eye of troubled times. Chapter 25, Chen Gong's Conspiracy. Chen Gong secretly plotted to murder Liu Buletin and seize power. Using intelligence, I uncovered his plot and set a trap for Chen Gong. Furious but unable to track him down, Liu Buletin became even more dependent on me. Chapter 26, Surprise Raid. I instigated surprise troops to raid CAO's rear, using the terrain and night to cover. With ghostly eyes to see the enemy's formation, Lu Buletin led his army to attack directly. CAO was caught off guard and forced to retreat. The Battle of Zhuzhou was won, and the rivers and the court praised my ability. Chapter 27, Yuan Shu brought about his own destruction. Yuan Shu's internal contradictions intensified, and I secretly fueled the situation and made it confused. CAO took advantage of the situation to attack, and Yuan Shu was finally destroyed. After my father-in-law saw me analyzing the overall situation, he sighed, "The good son-in-law is really extraordinary." Chapter 28, Lu Buletin's Promotion. Lu Buletin's combat power increased greatly in successive battles, and he made breakthroughs in martial arts and strategy. I secretly guided him to set up his formation and use troops, making him an invincible general on the battlefield. He finally recognized that I was not only a strategist, but also a master in troubled times. Chapter 29, Resourcefulness. I analyzed the movements of the princes in the court and proposed a strategic layout. Everyone praised my vision and wisdom, and even Cao was secretly jealous. I am secretly glad in my heart. Traveling to the end of the Han Dynasty will not only succeed in entering the officialdom, but also influence the outcome of the war. Chapter 30, Bizarre Allies. One day, I met a mysterious man who claimed to be a strange strategist who claimed to have information about the future. I strategically tested its authenticity and found that it did have extraordinary talents. Decided to cooperate temporarily and form an alliance to fight against Cao and the powerful enemies in troubled times. Lu Buletin sneered beside him, "Boy, you have found a strange person again. I am watching a good show." Chapter 31, Cao's Counterattack. Cao led elite troops to raid Zhuzhou, and I set up a surprise formation in advance, using the waterway and terrain to form an ambush. Lu Buletin slammed the enemy in the formation, and the enemy fell into my preset trap step by step. Although Cao tried repeatedly without success, he secretly exclaimed, "This son really has the wisdom of a prophet." Chapter 32, Night Raid Conspiracy. At night, I planned a nighttime assault on Cao's rear camp, using intelligence provided by the extraordinary strategist to create an illusion. With my ghostly eyes, I discerned the enemy's secret passages. Lu Buletin led his troops in a swift attack, throwing Cao's army into disarray. After the battle, Lu Buletin and I admired the moonlight, chuckling to ourselves, "In troubled times, true strength lies in the combination of wisdom and courage." Chapter 33, Yuan Shao rises again. Yuan Shao saw that the situation between Cao and Zhuzhou was unfavorable and tried to unite the princes to attack Zhuzhou. I analyzed the terrain, troops, and psychological warfare, arranged false information, and guided the princes to be suspicious of each other. As a result, there was a dispute among the princes, Yuan Shao's plan failed, and Zhuzhou was safe again. Chapter 34, The Advice of the Strange Strategist. The strategist suggested that I use the strategy of combining virtual and real to create internal contradictions in Cao. I conspired with Lu Buletin to make Cao's military morale begin to waver. When my father-in-law saw me analyzing the situation, he sighed, "My son-in-law is really a genius in troubled times." Chapter 35, The Decisive Battle at Hulao Pass. Cao personally led the charge, attempting to break through Hulao Pass. I anticipated his strategy and laid traps and ambushes. Lu Buletin met him, and the battle unfolded with unpredictable force. I commanded Cao with ingenious tactics, hindering his advances. Ultimately, Cao was forced to retreat, and Zhuzhou remained safe for the time being. Chapter 36, The End of Yuan Shu. Yuan Shu's ambitions were exposed, and I devised a plan with a brilliant strategist to unleash internal chaos. Lu Buletin led his army in an assault, forcing Yuan Shu to retreat and ultimately bring about his own destruction. Both the court and the martial arts world hailed Lu Buletin and me as a gifted duo. Chapter 37, Lu Buletin's Leap. After a series of battles, Lu Buletin's strength increased greatly and his tactics became more mature. I secretly guided his military strategy, making him an invincible general on the battlefield. Lu Buletin finally admitted that I am not only a strategist, but also a master in troubled times. Chapter 38, Outwitting Chen Palace. Chen Gong plotted rebellion again. I foresaw his intentions and set a trap. Lu Buletin led his army to suppress the rebellion, trapping Chen Gong, who was trapped and unable to recover. I chuckled to myself, as the ancients said, "Warfare is the art of deception." It's in times of chaos like this that the true qualities of a skilled warrior are revealed. Chapter 39, Bizarre Reinforcements. At the height of the tension, the strategist secretly mobilized reinforcements from the southeast. The enemy was terrified, thinking that they had encountered an anomaly, and retreated in embarrassment. Lu Buletin and I looked at each other and smiled, understanding in our hearts, resourcefulness and illusion can determine victory or defeat more than mere force. Chapter 40, The Oath of the Master of Troubled Times. After the war, Lu Buletin and I stood at the head of Zhuzhou city, overlooking the country. I secretly made a vow in my heart, no matter how the troubled times change, I will use wisdom, strategy, and courage to lead the situation and influence the battle situation. Lu Buletin patted me on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Boy, from now on, you and I will live and die together." Under the moonlight, our shadows are elongated, as if telling the infinite possibilities of the troubled times at the end of the Han Dynasty. Chapter 41, Cao's Last Temptation. Cao secretly dispatched elite troops to launch a surprise attack on Zhuzhou, testing Lu Buletin's and my reactions. Using intelligence and terrain strategies, I lured the enemy into an ambush. Lu Buletin led his forces to meet the attack, sending Cao's forces reeling. I nodded in agreement, in times of chaos, only by combining wisdom and courage can one be invincible. Chapter 42, The Prophecy of the Strategist. The strategist once again put forward a prediction of the future battle situation, indicating that the general trend of the world will change. I saw the clues, discussed countermeasures with Lu Buletin, and decided to lay out in advance to confuse future opponents. When Cao heard the news, although he was calm on the surface, he was already afraid of us in his heart. Chapter 43, The Ultimate Showdown at Tiger Prison Pass. Cao joined forces with the princes to attack Hulao Pass. I commanded with clever strategies, Lu Buletin met the enemy head-on with force, and the enemy fell into a trap step by step. The battle situation was like a chess game turned upside down. Cao was finally forced to retreat, and Hulao Pass was held again. Chapter 44, Yuan Shu perished. Yuan Shu was confused due to intensified internal contradictions, and I secretly instigated Lu Buletin to attack, and Yuan Shu was defeated and killed. The court and the rivers and lakes both call us a combination of wizards in troubled times. My father-in-law was convinced of me and officially proposed to be filial and honest, and my dream finally became a reality. Chapter 45, Lu Buletin's admission. After the war, Lu Buletin officially recognized me as the master behind it and was willing to rely on it wholeheartedly. I laughed secretly, traveling through the end of the Han Dynasty. Not only did you succeed in entering the officialdom, but you could also control the battle situation and influence the heroes of the world. Together, we developed the next step in addressing potential threats. Chapter 46, Defeating Chen Gong. Chen Gong plotted rebellion again. I saw through his plot and laid a trap. Lu Buletin suppressed Chen Gong, trapping the enemy. I chuckled to myself, in troubled times, wisdom is more important than sheer force. Chapter 47, Bizarre Reinforcements. A strange strategist mobilized mysterious reinforcements from the southeast, causing the enemy, mistakenly believing they were encountering a mysterious force, to retreat in panic. Lu Buletin and I exchanged a smile, each realizing that in times of chaos, wisdom and deception are the keys to victory. Chapter 48, The Career is Completed. In the court, I officially recommended filial piety and integrity to enter the service. My father-in-law and all the officials called me a wizard in troubled times, and even Cao secretly praised me. I stood on the stage, knowing in my heart that this was not only the beginning of my career, but also a recognition of wisdom and courage. Chapter 49, The Rivers and Lakes Are Converging. The troubled times gradually subsided, the princes retreated, and Cao did not send troops for the time being. Lu Buletin and Qi Shishi and I sorted out the forces and reorganized the order of the rivers and lakes. The bizarre strategist quietly departs, leaving behind mysterious clues that seem to hint that there is still an unknown situation ahead. Chapter 50, The Sustainability of Masters in Troubled Times. I stood at the head of Zhuzhou City, overlooking the country, and secretly vowed in my heart, no matter how the world changes, I will use wisdom, strategy, and courage to lead the situation and influence the battle situation. Lu Buletin patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Boy, from now on, you and I will live and die." Under the moonlight, our shadows are elongated, as if telling the infinite possibilities of the troubled times at the end of the Han Dynasty. The rivers and lakes and the court, wisdom and strategies, have been passed down forever since then.